Hi everyone. Today we will talk about the relationship between shyness and social capital in terms of what kinds of social processes are responsible in the process of emergence of this emotion, shyness. Before starting, please don't forget to subscribe and like the video. Let's start. For many people, it is very clear with regard to what shyness is. They think they have enough knowledge what it is. Calling someone shy generally means that those people who are shy are quiet and reserved in the friendship of others. They look as if they want to fall through the floor if we want to talk them. Shy people feel discomfort when they encounter a new society, thus they have problems to interact with others. As for the definition of the shyness, Scott demonstrates that shyness is the being easily frightened away, difficult to approach due to timidity, caution, or distrust, underlying the point that this is socially oriented state of mind. Therefore, shyness is not who we are, but something we feel while we do the things as we do. As a matter of fact, that we can say that shyness is an emotion that culturally shaped and represented. But here I do not denounce the other approaches regarding shyness, such as being perceived as of personality traits. However, what matters most regarding the essence of shyness is the role of cultures, and also shyness is a privately felt state of mind. Therefore, in this video we will rest on the salience of culture regarding shyness, and in order to display this, I'm going to talk about the two cultures, which were Japanese and Jewish ones. Thus, firstly, I will give the different approaches related with shyness. Then, secondly, the salience of culture and the essence of the feeling rules, and after that, two cultures, Japanese and Jewish ones, will be discussed in a detailed way to show the shaping role of the cultures. At first, we will talk about the relationship between socialization and shyness. Our defining characteristics our species defining characteristic is social interdependence, and to survive to maturity we need support from others. In the society, we get along with one another and learn about each other. After that, we develop knowledge and skills in interaction. At this point, emotions have significant role during these interactions. Therefore, during the socialization process, there are fundamental human emotions, which are interest, joy, surprise, sadness, anger, distrust, contempt, fear, shame, shyness, and guilt. Yet, it is claimed that disgust, fear, and shame, which are known to be highly language-specific and cultural-specific, due to the fact that a first step out to understand and explain what makes shy, there are different approaches. Ambiguity and complexity of the shyness make it difficult to deduce shyness into solely one approach or one theory. However, the values and cultural experiences are one step forward rather than other approaches. Mainly, there are two different and conflicting approaches concerning the shyness. On the one hand, shyness is seen as a dimension of the character. In other words, it is assumed on the other hand, it is assumed as a personality trait. Also, Zimbardo says that personality trait researchers are convinced that shyness is an inherited trait, much like intelligence or hate. On the other hand, there are researchers believe that shyness must be understood in terms of social programming. The conditions of society makes us shy. However, emergence of the shyness is not only about the personality or cultures in which people live and interact to others. Related with the first approach, people want to study the individual differences and perceive the idea that shyness exists in human minds as a driving force for behavior. In this regard, shyness might be chronic or dispositional as a part of personality trait, but what is silent in terms of shyness is the crucial role of the cultures upon this. In the meantime, shyness reactions could emerge as behavioral, cognitive, affective, and or physiological levels. These reactions might occur at any or all levels of all of the levels. For example, in the affective level, symptoms of shyness are like following: embarrassment, painful self-consciousness, shame, dejections and sadness, loneliness, anxiety, and so on. People experience these emotions when they encounter into society rather than their private worlds. Here, there is an emphasis on the private mental processes are shaped by social conditions and consequences. Also, self-esteem is one of the instruments for self-development, since evolution of one's own competences or self-enhancement strategies influence emotional experiences, thoughts, actions, and long-term psychological wellness. For instance, feeling good about oneself and nothing being bad to others gives a person the confidence to tackle life's many complex tasks and challenging pleasures. As a matter of fact, that there are very different approaches concerning shyness, and mainly there are two approaches which are about the personality traits and social approaches. Yet, the main focus point is that there are also private shy people with regard to their characteristics, but also shyness is more about the sociology, which means that it is culturally shaped and represented identity. It should be noted that the processes in which social and cultural contexts shape the relations between shyness and adjustment are likely to occur at multiple levels, from institutional to personal, including social policies, value orientations in the community, school education goals and activities, and family and peer socialization beliefs and practices. As for the results of shyness, as a consequence, shy selves are not born but socially made through patterns of interaction, changing cultural value and reflexive identity work. This is not to deny the subjective reality of mental distress that is involved in suffering with shyness. Now, in terms of the socialization process, culture has a crucial role, because it can be said that the culture of a society has the memory of beliefs, attitudes, norms, roles, and values that have worked in the past. Besides, it was transmitted from the one culture to another culture based on the fundamental assumptions we are not aware of. As for the salience of the culture related with shaping the shyness, Scott points out that shyness exists at the cultural level as a socially constructed identity, one that is defined in value relevant terms and imbued with moral significance. So, the values of the cultures are important in terms of experiencing shyness. In some cultures, being a shy person is to be praised as a moral stance. This means that being a shy person can have positive connotations as an indicator of the morality, and other cultures attribute negative connotation to shyness. However, this should not be seen as a denial the mental and emotional components of the shy mind. Here is the important thing, is the ways of these components represented, shaped, and experienced in the social world. For example, in her another research, Scott makes it clear that shy people were acutely aware of the social context in which their behavior shaped, defined, and managed, and found it immensely satisfying to express these feelings, frustrated sociability. Furthermore, it occurs from situated interaction as a socially negotiated role rather than a fixed trait of personality. Different cultures are of different meaning to the emotions, and experiences such emotions differ from each other. For example, emotional experiences of the given values are very different and shaped and managed quite differently. For instance, experiencing the honor and shame in the Mediterranean region are very different from the other cultures, And these are the cultural products of the given society. As Scott reports, people are going to inevitably depend upon the culture into which they have been socialized. Also, cultural images of shyness form shy people's perception of their condition and non-shy people's response to it. With regard to the role of the cultures, there is the salient feature of the feeling rules. In such conditions, people have to try to feel in the way with the impositions of the cultures. Hochschild argues that we often talk about our feelings or those of others as if rights and duties apply directly to them. For example, we often speak of having the right to feel angry at someone. Because there are many codes, rules about the feelings. These are to shape and manage our feelings in a given conditions or situations. And at this point, Hochschild shows us that the rights and duties of the feeling are a clue to depths of social convention, to one final reach of social control. It is seen clearly in the East Asian societies in a very deep way. The salience of feelings and the idea of conformity of the people to their parents, their groups, and most of their states. To sustain conformity, there are certain feelings people are supposed to feel in such a way that what their cultures imposes. What is more is that feeling rules are to reflect social membership, and people are also want to try to feel associated with their culture, society, in order to show and become a part of this society. Due to the fact that feeling rules are to be seen as the bottom sign of the ideology, and so they have the same pressures for change. Let's also consider that when a new person encounters to a new society, they are expected to behave and more importantly to feel on the basis of the impositions of their culture. They are otherwise, if these people behave in a different way, they are assumed as a threat to their cultures. As a consequence, they are to be marginalized owing to feeling impositions of the cultures. In the meantime, the essence of the feeling rules prevents people from taking actions and behaving what they really want, and at the end, their feelings have been molded or shaped at the expense of their real feelings, and they have been put at the margins rather than being taken place in the center of the culture. As a matter of fact, the feeling rules are the very crucial place in terms of the shaping the people's place and role in the culture, because with the essence of feeling rules, people are to be shaped before their actions, and if they do anything different from these rules, they are going to be perceived as a threat to society, and then they become marginalized people. Here, what I mean is that culture become dominant and people feel more shy and locate themselves at the margins. As to the cultural examples of the effects of culture upon shyness, there are two salient examples, which are Japanese and Jewish cultures. According to the research conducted in America, shyness is the highest among the Asian Americans and lowest among Jewish Americans. Among the Japanese, 57% reported being currently shy. Contrary to this percentage, only 24% of the Jewish American group reported themselves as presently shy. On the other hand, the case during development process, children in Western societies, especially in North America, are commonly expected and socialized to be increasingly decisive rather than reserved and restrained. There is evidence that relative to the results based on children in North America, shyness is perceived as less problematic in some Asian countries, for example, Indonesia and Korea. This emotion has also been related with less negative outcomes in Swedish than American youths because due to the egalitarian values in Sweden, shy people may not necessarily be at a disadvantage in life adjustment over those who are assertive and competing. The Western cultural context may largely result in children's negative images of and attitudes towards social withdrawal. From a contextual developmental approach, it is argued that cultural values gives a framework for children's judgments and evaluations of specific behaviors, which in turn determine to a large extent their display and functional meanings in development. Therefore, differences among types of social withdrawal are likely to appear more evidently in societies where they are valued more differently. On the other hand, when we look at the Jewish culture, Jewish people are less introverted and more extroverted. However, regarding this research, Zimbardo shows that there is no gender difference in reported shyness. In addition to this, Zimbardo says that and discusses there are cultural values that promote shyness as a social control mechanism or a desired form of modesty and respect for authority. In addition, Japanese people reported that they like to be shy and praised its positive consequences. Examining what makes special these two cultures will be helpful to learn about regarding relationship between culture and emotions. Firstly, Japanese culture is significant in terms of being a model for the shyness producing and promoting the shyness thanks to their traditional values that make virtues of modesty and reserve. According to Zimbardo, Japanese child is caught in a net of cultural values that make shyness inevitable. In other words, their cultural values associated with the upbringing style and practices of these styles produce and promote a shy person. Their culture is to enhance the passive dependence and unquestioning loyalty. This is important because controlling society is the very core of the Japanese cultures. To do so, they have to use the emotion of shyness. This means that actions that break the anticipation of others are a potential source of shame for individual. Zimbardo makes it clear by saying that in Japanese, the word shyness is closely related to the word shame. They also fear for being laughed at, and because of this, shyness is seen as a safe lifestyle owing to social control through fear of shame. Consequently, shyness is praised and promoted at a social level, and this affects the lives of the individuals. Yet, shyness is negatively associated with acceptance in Canada, but positively in China. As to the Jews and their culture, we see the role of chutzpah and pride in terms of non-shy Jews. Chutzpah can be defined as a different type of prideful self-esteem which motivates and triggers the actions regardless of the risk of being, quote, unprepared, untalented, or unwise. At this point, Jews are to take responsibility and do what they want to do in the light of the chutzpah. Therefore, they are not afraid of fear of shame while deciding and implementing their actions or decisions. What is more significant is that Zimbardo points out that there are positive attitudes towards child. For example, children are generally involved in adult conversations, invited to perform their tricks. In addition to these, in Israel, failure is externally attributed to the parents, teachers, friends, and the like, while all performance success is credited to the individual's actions. The result is an action orientation toward necessarily taking risks, since there is nothing to lose by trying and everything to gain. However, in Japan, the situation is totally different. The success is attributed to the externally, and failure is blamed, associated with the individual actions. Contrary to these, in Japanese culture, we see the exclusion of the children in the public actions. Also, in Japan, they are seen as strangers to adults, and they have to be loyal and to be controlled by their families and or authorities. Also, they are of fear of shame to perform. Unlike the importance of the prestige of group or society and to be loyal and wait for their times to come, here what we see is the encouraging self-reliance and leadership. As a matter of fact, in Jewish culture, there is an encouragement to express their ideas and feelings openly. Consequently, it can be said that there is no single leading event emerged as an attributable root of their shyness. Rather, shy people express a whole series of events, interactions, and relationships that have developed over the years. To conclude, shyness is not a simple and tangible emotion. It is a very complex and ambivalent feeling. Scott describes shyness as being easily frightened away, difficult to approach owing to timidity, caution, or distrust, underlying the point that this is socially oriented state of mind. Here, the essence of feeling rules, which are to be taught us how to be felt in a given situations. The focus point of this is the salience of culture in terms of experiencing and encouraging the shyness. However, as it was said before, the other approaches should not be neglected and deduced just a cultural basis. In other words, there are other factors in terms of existing of shyness, but here in this video it was mainly focused on the idea of shyness being a socially constructed that affects most of us at some point in our lives. At the core of the social capital, relationships among individuals and social groups, behaviors, norms are key terms. Thus, being aware of the reasons of the shyness is crucial to overcome the negative effects on the social capital. In order to transform the social capital and to increase the actors' levels of social capital, it is necessary to put more emphasis on the role of emotions. To tackle the negative perceptions and or attitudes towards the shyness, it is necessary to do more research on relationship among the culture of a society, which in turn affects the social capital. It is necessary to bear in mind that as societies change, perceptions of shyness shifts. And with this sentence, we came to the end of our video. Please subscribe my channel, and if you like it, please click the like button. See you.